Hello once again. Welcome to Tuesday program in the Branson Centennial Museum, which is a part of the White River Valley Historical Society. As you know, we also have a museum research library in Forsyth. We are supported totally by memberships and donations, so please keep that in mind. Our program schedule, our next one is Sherry Hershend with Ozark Memories. And out by the desk out front, there's a flyer you can take with you listing all the others coming up. In September, we'll have a program on hillbilly broadcasting by Tom Peters. And then in October, we're going to have somebody conservation talking about eagles. And that's not the rock group, please. Also, we always like to give our thanks to Joe and Barb Reich for the museum having the use of this facility. Now, as you know, we're celebrating Christmas in July. Yeah. You may have noticed the lovely Christmas trees and some of the music, and a lot of what you're going to hear relates to Christmas. So we're privileged to have a real rockette with us today, Renee Johnson, and then we have a premier tub thumper, Lisa Rao, who had a lot to do with marketing the rockette performances in Branson. I'll tell my old story again, which too many people have heard. I first saw the Rockettes in 1938 in New York. And then when I saw them in Branson in the 2000s, I found they had not aged a bit. After the program, we'll be pleased to have you join us in a piece of cake celebrating the Rockette performances. Now, Lisa, it's up to you.
Okay, good. Great, Mr. B. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, first of all, let's set the stage here. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! You know what? The way that usually happens on stage, they say that wasn't good enough. Let's do it again. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Yay! I'm Lisa Rao. I'm Silver Dollar City for 33 years. I've enjoyed so much fun being here in Branson. It's been the most colorful career. I say I don't ever need a do-over, but I'd take a do again, that's for sure. Now, real quickly, I'm going to do some housekeeping so that you all know that we have, because I usually do the housekeeping, so I'm going to do this. Okay. We have a handful of press kits you can take, one if you'd like, but they're only about half full. I found them in our storage unit. More importantly, we have this incredible collector's book. We have a whole stack of them. Mr. and Mrs. B would like a $10 donation, and inside here is a piece of the curtain from Radio City Music Hall from when it was restored. So this is a $10 donation. There aren't many, so we'll make sure that you guys know that they're on their way out as you are walking out. Now, there is a problem with the cake because somebody who was taking it out of her car decided to do something and stick her thumb in it, and something happened, and next thing I know, our beautiful cake that has all these pictures on it kind of has some mess around it. Well, I thought I'd confess right up front. So it's wonderful, wonderful fresh cake. It just has a little messy part on it. And the worst part is one of the pictures that got the icing mess is Renee's face. But you can see that picture right here, right in front on the podium. When I was preparing for this speech, I was thinking about how I was following, I see a few reporters here today, I was following a good publicist thinking who, what, when, where, why, and how. And that's what I'm going to cover before our main attraction, okay? Who Who brought this to Branson? How did it happen? What was going on that made that work? When did it happen, and why? The why is all throughout, because there's great history with the Radio City Rockettes. And of course we need the how. We have to do the how, because how did we in Branson collectively pull off one of the greatest shows in the land? So let's talk about the 90s. Who was here doing anything with tourism, enjoying it, working in it, whatever, in the 1990s? Yep, see, lots of us, okay. And lots of us were in tourism in the 90s. These two over here are hiding out. Tammy Schulten, turn around, give a big wave. Tammy was one of the finest producers in her career. She was a promoter, and she did fabulous work with the Grand Palace, was very close with the Rockettes. Miss Pam Critchfield was often by her side, helping her do various things throughout Branson. I know that a lot of you had a stake in what happened with the Radio City Rockettes. But for those of you who weren't here, let's quickly define that era, okay? It was star-studded. There was live entertainment icons. There was country music royalty. There were TV show stars, people who had television shows. Jim Stafford. Who else? Come on, yell some out. Glenn Campbell. Remember the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour? The Mandrells. Who?
Roy Clark.
Roy Clark. One of the, if not the, along with our own royalty shoji, Roy Clark. Okay. Do you want chocolate clusters from Aunt June at Silver Dollar, or do you want peanut brittle?
Peanut brittle.
All right. Could you pass that back? Oop, it melted in my car a little bit. Just throw it on the ground. It'll be fine. Okay, so who else was here? Who else? Come on, give me, yeah. Andy V, Mr. Christmas himself, Andy Williams. Who else? Who? Tony Orlando. Wayne Newton. Bobby Vinton. See how fun this is? It gives me shivers to remember all that. Mickey Gilley. Yes, so many. Kenny Rogers, remember that? Remember when Johnny Cash got to town? Yakov Smirnoff. How fun is that, right? So we had this great thing going on. And at the same time, the media landscape was monumental. I was literally going, hello, Time. Hello, Life. Who remembers Life? Life magazine, right? Hello, Today Show. And then what happened? Raise your hand. I'm going to call on you. Tell me what happened in the media landscape.
60 minutes.
Well, you got to raise your hand, but you can have chocolate clusters anyway. 60 minutes came, all right? Now that was a game changer. We were doing great. We were really doing great here in Branson because, you know, all the way back to Shepherd of the Hills and Silver Dollar City and the Presleys and the Bald Knobbers and the Dam, and as Caitlin McConnell writes about, the Rockaway Beach, all the things that happened with Rockaway Beach in its glory years, and just some wonderful history. We were always good at making sure that we were changing with the times to keep up our tourism, right? So I'm not going to take anything away from today and who we've become today, but I got to tell you, that 90s was pretty special. It was a pretty special time of year, era to have lived through. So now we've established the 90s, okay? So Radio City heard, of course, about us, right? They wanted to know, how can we get in on this thing? There were some local people, many of you know, of course, Mr. Christmas organizer, leader himself, Mr. Peter Hershend, big part of it. The Hershend, Jack Hershend and other people on our team, Rick Todd, some people know, Ron Jett, and one more interesting name, the beginning of the John Jocelyn name. John Jocelyn had a connection to connecting the people to the New York crowd to Branson, which I found very interesting. I didn't even realize that till I started talking with people. But all these guys got together, and yes, Radio City wanted us. And you know why they wanted us? Of course they wanted the millions of visitors. Of course that's what they wanted. They wanted to in on it, right? But they also had heard about the Grand Palace. In its first season, the Grand Palace had won the Country Music Association's Venue of the Year. And at that point, the Grand Palace was very much on the national map. They wanted a grand theater. They were very impressed. I saw Ross Summers is here. They were very impressed with a community that works together. We had Branson Area Festival of Lights. We had all the shows. We're all doing Christmas shows. We had lots of lights. We had lots of excitement, lots of energy toward Christmas. And Silver Dollar City was growing Christmas like crazy. So collectively, we were a community and a city that worked all together. We all worked together. They liked that. But, Mona, this is something you probably know. The other thing they liked about Branson was the fact of the values that are portrayed in the Christmas show. A beautiful show that culminates in the most magnificent living nativity. Anybody here ever see the Radio City Christmas Spectacular? It was amazing. It was grand. It was spectacular. And here was the world's biggest Christmas show with the world famous, star-studded, beautiful, glamorous Radio City Rockettes wanting to come here to Branson. And boy, that worked out. It worked out great. So those are good whys. Now, what does it take to run such a show? First of all, let's talk about some Rockettes. Rockettes need to be 5'5.5" to 5'9.5". The way they create the illusion is the tall go in the middle and then the shorter as it goes out. They have to be very fit and proficient in jazz, tap, all kinds of dance, ballet. They have to be very, very smart, because the choreography is extremely complicated. There are some numbers that are 160 kicks in one number alone. So that's truly these are not just your normal dancers, right? These are people who can really step up to the plate and be there to be, what? A national treasure. They work together to create what they call a sisterhood, a unity. They don't want to stand out, right? We all love in our shows, that we have stars and those who we, migrate our eyes to watch the star of the show. You don't do that with the Rockettes. They all have the signature red lipstick on. That lipstick is blue toned underneath and will not turn orange under the lights. And lo and behold, our very own Rockette brought the Christian Dior 999 lipstick today. She'll be wearing that. That's really fun. I thought that was fun. But the hats and the costumes. So real quickly, I'm going to read through some interesting stats about what it took to do this here at the Grand Palace. It took 100 people, 100 different people between 60. Is this popping too much? I'll hold it out some. 100 people, 60 cast members, the rest cast and crew. There were animals, a complete zoo. We had to build a stable. We had to outfit the stage at the Grand Palace so it could accommodate an ice rink being lowered from the ceiling. 8 different sets, and the set designers came from all over the nation. The sets were created in Dallas and New York and here and on site. There was costume people who were internationally known. There were seamstresses, all the support people, all the lighting, and it was by far the most technical thing that had ever happened in Branson, Missouri. It was hugely, hugely technical. And interesting facts, little things like, how you could hear their tapping? You could hear the taps, right? In the heels are equipped with little microphones. And we went through, Larry Hampton, if anyone knows, Billy Naomi Hampton's husband, we went through $10,000 worth of batteries a season. in backstage, there were seamstresses grabbing costumes that needed fixing right away. There were dressers, people dressing. There's one between Christmas in New York and Parade of Wooden Soldiers. It's a 76-second costume change. There were caterers. I mean, it was just crazy. There were animals. Get out of the way. Here comes the camel. Seriously, it was such an exciting time. And I do have to say, I think to some degree we might have gotten to take it a little bit for granted. And in doing this research for this speech, I've realized I'm not going to take any of this stuff we've done in Branson together. I'm not going to take any of it for granted. So we really do have a lot of reason to be proud, because the community worked together to bring in Radio City and support Radio City, and since continued to build Christmas. As we know, our own friend, Miss Christmas herself, Ann McDowell. She's the Christmas tree woman, for those of you guys who don't know. A couple of quick facts. Besides that, you know, there were little people and children and teddy bears and all that, but no matter what, no matter how beautiful the sets or how beautiful all of the music and the costumes, the Rockettes were always the star. Now, Radio City Rockettes, truly a national treasure of the United States of America. USO, World War II, they were over there. They were entertaining. They've done Super Bowl halftimes. They have, of course, done Radio City, and of course, the Thanksgiving Day parade and the parades in New York. So with that said, you gotta realize, to have a very own Rockette right here in Branson who chose to stay with us, coming from Dallas, Fort Worth, a woman who worked for Disney, worked on cruise lines, and became one of the very first Rockettes in Branson, Missouri. Renee, coming from the stairway. Can she get through?
It is so nice to see everyone. Lisa, what a fabulous job. I literally got 2 inches taller back there just listening to her. I feel really good. Thank you all so much for coming out. That is kind. That is kind. So, greetings everybody. Hi, you guys. So, we were extremely proud to load into Branson, Missouri. And Radio City, you have to understand, they looked all over the country, and they looked carefully. And they looked with very sharp pencils. And what they loved, really, exactly as you said about Branson, is that wonderful family atmosphere. It was like a little piece of Norman Rockwell. And what the Radio City brand has been all these years is just to bring in a little bit of that joy that was always Christmas, and to do it in full scale, and to do it with an element of fun. So it was very, very important that we landed here, and we stayed here 10 years, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, from 95 to 2000. I was with them 95 to 2000. They were here 94 to 2003.
Let's tell them some about the history.
We're not going to tell them anything about the history. No, we will tell you things about the history.
It's a wonderful history. You want to go ahead and start it?
Yeah, so I believe they started as the Missouri Rockets in 1925 in St. Louis. And they were so popular, and they caught on, that they were invited to New York at the Roxy Theater. So when they got to the Roxy Theater, they decided to keep them, and they would call them the Roxyettes. That was a little snazzy. After that, they went over to Radio City, where they became the Radio City Rockettes. I see a question. You good?
Gene wants something.
If Jean wants something, Jean gets it. That's how we roll around here, Miss Jean.
Renee, step forward a little bit. So there you go.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Miss Jean. Thank you. So, yeah, so they loaded into Radio City. Vincent Minnelli, Liza Minnelli's father, was actually the first designer on the show. The Radio City Christmas Spectacular started as a 30-minute show. And we had Bob Mackey designing some outfits. Pete Menefee designing some outfits. So it really was a treasure of New York. They all jumped in, and we had some of the biggest names working for us, which was fun. Branson was super special, and Lisa said, you guys might want to know some things that maybe nobody else knows about the show when it was here. Like maybe when the hedge caught fire in the middle of a show when we were dancing on it. Didn't know that one, did you? I know, Carol of the Bells and those giant white hats, and we're all up on the hedge, kicking, and all these lights are going, and the full cast is on stage, and it's chaos, and all of a sudden someone smelled smoke. And just very slowly, like a warp, that line just stepped off, kept dancing, stepped off, and it was like a wave effect all the way down. And then I think there were techs putting it out behind us. Theater, you never know what's coming. That's the fun part. Does anyone remember the year the Grand Palace caught fire? Remember that? In the middle of the Christmas season, we were just loading in. We had Dino's Christmas show in there, and us at the same time. So that was a bit of a spin, and as usual, the staff did an amazing job, and they found us a place to rehearse in Kimberling City. Evidently, some people call it a bowling alley. We called it a studio, and it was pretty darn entertaining. So we literally jammed the entire cast into the bowling alley in Kimberling City, and we rehearsed. And we pulled all of the sets from Chicago, because Chicago was opening right after us. So we took theirs, and they had to go get their own. And we mounted that, and we got Dino back up, and we performed on the Showboat Branson Bell, which was amazing, because I mean, that's an iconic piece of Branson entertainment. So to be able to go and join their band and their dancers and their crew was just phenomenal. We had a great time. They wouldn't let us drive, but we had fun. It was good.
Tell them about Bob Hope.
Oh my gosh, you need to help me with that one, because I don't think I was here that year.
They stole her is what they did. Did you leave here and go to New York?
No, I was not part of that contingent. I was there. So here's the thing about New York. They're pretty adamant that that line stays really high. So I measured in at 5'5". Barely. So the Conies, by the time we started the Conies and all the outer shows, they had to start loading on Rockettes. And to keep the quality up, they had to give on the height. So I made it in, and I think they took the taller girls to New York when Bob Hope came through, because it was a huge deal. Bob Hope, oh my gosh, absolute living icon. I wish I could have gone. But it was amazing that he participated with us and that some of them got to go. I hear they had a great time. Brats.
We're going to tell the Bob Hope story.
You need to tell it.
Okay, you guys. Was anybody in the parking lot of the Grand Palace for the Bob Hope story? No, nobody here was here for the Bob Hope part?
Nothing.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, because everyone here knows who Bob Hope was, right? What an icon, what a funny man, what perfect timing, just so much to be said for that man. And he was coming because the Osmonds were busy building up the whole veterans idea of Branson being a great place for our veterans, which of course continues to this day. Well, Mr. Hope was going to come out on a golf cart in front of the Grand Palace, and all these beautiful Rockettes were lining the stairs of the Grand Palace, and they were going to kick down at Christmas, the countdown for Christmas, and Bob Hope was going to open our Christmas. Well, that all went fine until Mr. Hope got out of the golf cart. Well, he saw all the beautiful ladies facing, he turned around and faced the women, but the 5,000 people in the parking lot were behind him. And he said, well, to the Rockettes, I'm so glad to be here today. I'm so glad to be a part of everything. And one of the Rockettes did this. And Mr. Hope, which I can only barely do him justice, turned around and said, well, hello, Branson. And when we kicked off the Rockettes, we needed to make an announcement, right? So we were going to announce it. It was a big deal. It was in the foyer of the Grand Palace with the chandelier and all the beauty. And Radio City let us borrow about a dozen Rockettes. Tammy, you were here. And the women, when it was time to announce, they started cascading down the stairs, and we started to make it snow. It was snowing in the lobby of the Grand Palace with beautiful, glamorous women, and Pete Herschel was back here, standing back, just smiling away at all these beautiful women. Well, it was a great day and a great announcement, and then the next morning, I'm sure a lot of you have done this in your lifetime, shot out of bed to run and get the newspaper, right? I couldn't wait to see the front page. I opened the front page, opened the newspaper, unrolled it, and there was this great big picture of a car going through the front of the Greene County Library. At the last minute before press time, this massive picture that would have been almost the entire above the fold was this car going through the library. I went through 8A. A little black and white picture with Pete Herschel smiling at beautiful women. It was, as a publicist, guys, I'm sure you don't feel the pain that I'm trying to deliver here. But Renee, talk about the sisterhood.
Oh my gosh. So the Grand Palace is large. You were talking about the history of the New York show. So in the New York show, that line is 38 girls wide. And you've got 4 subs. To try to reseat that show anywhere in the United States, it's easy to find a stage that's wide enough, but you can't get it deep enough. There's nothing that's going to be that deep. So they cut the line in half, and we do 18 girls with 2 subs. In the Grand Palace, we were blessed to have many dressing rooms. That did not stop us from shoving 9 girls to a room. And you bond under those circumstances. And they're from all over the United States. We had a New Yorker that was 38 who had never driven in her life, probably never will. We had girls from Costa Rica. We had girls from the coast, and we have girls from the heartland. So it's amazing, to our credit, I think, how little fighting there ever was. It really is very supportive. With Radio City, it's famous in that line, when you kick, you've got your hand out and it looks like we're all linked up. The fact is, you don't touch a girl. If you touch the girl next to you, you'll get in trouble from more than one person, mainly the girl you're touching. Because when you're kicking, you've got to pull that balance, and if you push somebody next to you to hold on to help yourself, you're knocking her out. And we get along real good right up until stuff like that happens, in all fairness. So as distant as all of it is and as absolutely regimented, the games that go on behind, and the Secret Santa stuff, and the games we play in Nativity, which, by the way, like you said, those costumes, $3,000 a piece. And we're a huge cast. So shoes, $20,000 for shoes and duct tape, because we would break the shoes a lot. Yeah, mine, I think they called my little monster shoes, because they had to cut them up to get my feet to fit right, and then we just duct taped it. So for all the investment and for all the flash, Branson really was the right place to put it, because the same sweet spirit in this small town that sees people reaching out after things like the 2008 tornado and supporting each other is the same thing that permeates the Radio City brand. It's just a bit of sweet remembrance of how lovely Christmas is supposed to be, and the charm and the love we have for each other, especially at that time of year. So this was the perfect place, and it was a good home for 10 years, wasn't it? Yeah.
We're going to take some questions for Renee, because I'm sure you guys have some questions. But just for a minute, I want to sit back and make sure we heard what she said about Missouri. The Radio City world famous Rockettes started in St. Louis, Missouri, and that man, Russell Merkert, was known as an incredible producer and visionary and entertainment guy. And you know what? Anybody can figure what his motivation was to create the Radio City Rockettes?
To be surrounded by girls.
Pretty close, but there was another iconic troupe that Merkert went and said, we can do better than lazy waist-high kicks. We can do better than these women. Ziegfeld Follies. He patterned after the Follies, and I think they were called the Tillis Girls, the Tilly Girls, something like that. And he said, we can do high kicks, and we can do glamour. And I want to just visit just for a minute with Renee about when we would do press, because we would do all kinds of press. In fact, we would take press groups to New York for Christmas in August. But Radio City taught us all a lot about being professionals, because you could never not be in character. And if we were going to come pick up these women for a radio show, right, at 6 a.m., Radio City didn't care. These women were going to be dressed like this, hat and all, always in character. Can you imagine? Tell us what it was like to be under such guidelines.
We just slept in our outfits.
She's the funny one of the crowd here. If you didn't hear her, she said we just slept in our outfits. Do you want to talk at all about the discipline? Because that hand thing is really on its own is an interesting thing. They had to have enough strength and versatility.
True, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And let me tell you, the staff and these ladies right here worked extraordinarily hard to make sure that Radio City was a success when it came into your beautiful town. And I'm deeply grateful for the time and the effort those women put in to making it spectacular. They truly did. They truly did. The precision is everything. So the way it works is that it's an illusion. It's a great illusion. So like Lisa said, the line goes from say 5'5.5" to 5'9.5", 10 feet. But they hire tall girls with low waists, and they hire short girls like me with high waists. So when you line us all up on stage, those legs look dead even at hip level. That's how it works. There are, if you were to take an aerial view of the stage that you luckily can never see from your seats, you would see tape, colored tape, all over it. Every mark is absolutely precise. And for every number, every one of us has a mark. And God bless those swings for remembering multiple tracks of multiple girls going different places. There were also super fun times like ragdoll. Remember the ragdoll number? And spin the boxes with the gloves? So fun. So to do that number, especially at the Grand Palace, we got dressed in the back and then ran outside and ran along the side of the building and popped into the back so we could come down the aisles to get on the stage. No matter the weather, no matter the rain or the cold. Luckily, you guys don't have any of that in winter. That was its own show, very much.
See if people can name some scenes.
Do you remember the nuts that they would make in the lobby? And the smell? You'd come into that big theater and the roasted nuts, the smell permeated, and it just was Christmas all over the place. The chandelier, that gorgeous iconic chandelier that they're actually selling pieces of. They've made it jewelry, and you can get it to decorate your tree or to wear. You can actually own pieces of that iconic chandelier.
Right here.
But that was amazing.
Renee, ask for a scene. Somebody either tell us something about a scene or name the scene. Oh, come on, kids. Yes.
You in the hat.
Very curious. Were you here 20 years ago?
Yes, sir, I was right here.
That's when I was here to take this picture.
Did you really? Let me see.
And I've had this picture on my wall for 20 years.
Okay, so do you see right before the bag, there's that really unlucky little soldier being held up by the little guy? That was me. That was me.
Which one do you want?
Good job. Good job.
So, all right. Oh, good. Thank you. He made you copies, Renee.
Thank you so much. That is so sweet. Look, you don't get that treatment anywhere else, I'm telling you. This is Branson. That's why we loved you guys for 10 years and wouldn't leave.
We have somebody who wants to show us something, everybody.
I gave this to Renee.
Nancy. Nancy?
In reservation.
Nancy. Oh my
Dollar
gosh. Here,
City.
take this. I'm leaving.
And she took it over and got everyone excited.
Oh, look at you. You look amazing. Let me see.
remember.
I remember that.
It's a Barbie signed by all the first-year Rockettes.
That is amazing.
Let's show it off, Renee. Here, Nance, you need some.
Look at that.
Yeah, I need it.
There was an entire collection of Barbie dolls put out in all the costumes. And Nancy was amazing. We loved the staff. We would play games with the staff during the show, and would run
And
in
they
the
come
bag.
to Hard Luck Diner,
Yes.
never out of costume, never out of facial costume either. I mean, their
We left some red
expressions-
lipstick around that place, though, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
It's all over. That is fabulous.
Thank
so
you.
much. It is so good to see.
Nancy, do you remember, I don't remember how many days that you sold out 3 shows a day?
Yes.
Okay, we're walking down memory lane. Pam Critchfield said, remember selling out 3 shows a day. More than 1,003.3 people saw Radio City here in Branson. So,
And at this point, I think since the Radio City Christmas, you can hang out with me. I love you too. You can sit anywhere you want. Do you have a chair?
I'm back here with
I'm going to come visit with you after this. So ever since the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, since its inception, I think in 1933, over 75 million people have seen the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, of which I was only a child. I think I remember you. I'm glad you went. Thank you. Thank you for going. We appreciate
And more
it.
than 3,000 Rockettes.
Yep. Yep. I think there's approximately at this time, COVID changed a few things, but in its full run prior to COVID, there were approximately 500 Rockettes operating around the country. So what we figured out in Branson by year 3 or 4 is that we could take that whole show and pack it up and shove it in the back of 3 semis, drive it to another city, and mount it in 3 days and open the doors to ticket sales.
And where did y'all go from here? I used to hear all kinds of places.
That's right, you did. So I know we went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We also did the Aronoff Center. We also did Mexico City. We opened Mexico City at the National Theater they built for the Olympics. So I was in 3 outside Conies. I know they did many. They were doing almost 7 once they got the hang of it, and they realized how easily they could trunk that show and extend it.
And wasn't that the reason we had ours so early in the year, at early part, so that y'all could go someplace else?
Right.
Yeah, Branson was the longest run. Branson was 3 months. That was the biggest run. It stayed that way the entire time. The other runs would be approximately 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, normally no more than that.
and we were the first long-term partnership agreement for the show to come back year after year. Now, I'm going to switch gears for a second here. If you can still fit in your costumes or your clothes from, early 2000, you guys can have candy. Is there anyone in here who can still wear their costume or their clothing from early 2000? Oh, Jan gets, all right, you guys. Jan, come on up for candy. You come up for candy. Ann McDowell probably gets some candy. All right, here, take over, Renee.
That's what you need, Candy. You are kind. Thank you. We so appreciate all of you coming out. Those were amazing
I'm gonna give you
times.
a puzzle. Look it, we're traveling through time.
Nice, look at that.
This is a Silver Dollar City puzzle traveling through the years. Jan Haneke, Diver Jan, she's going to get that.
Oh, thank you. I think that's better than
And how was your time?
But you need to give it to somebody else or I won't be able to fit in my costume.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about some of the charity things that we did.
Oh, I've got the information.
Oh, absolutely. Our amazing team, especially our publicist PR team, of which these ladies were very much a part of, all of them, set up some phenomenal outings with us. We went over to Kimberling City and did Shop with a Cop in full outfit. So we got to partner with a police officer and a child or a family and take them around Walmart. And it was one of the best nights we had. We absolutely loved it. We got to know the children, we got to know the families a little bit, help them pick things out. The officers were so gracious and so kind, and I know they do it every year. So we were thrilled to be asked to go one year. We absolutely loved it. That was terrific. We also walked on to the halftime performance of a Rams game in St. Louis, and we danced on grass. We did. And we were excited to do it. It was phenomenal. We came out the tunnel, felt like superstars, had a little bit of a mark on the grass, faced one side, and it felt like a massive stadium. It was so much fun, the trip out and the trip back. So they worked extremely hard to do a lot of things that helped tie us in. And so many, you were talking about the iconic theaters. That was a heyday. There were headliners, big names everywhere. And we were thrilled to get to go to their shows and sit on the front and get to experience Branson, because many of us didn't know anything about Branson. We came from all over. But then they would also turn around and come to ours. Yakov came out. Remember Jennifer in the morning?
Yeah.
She was so nice. She came, sat right on the front row, big smile, clapped at all the numbers. She was lovely. She was just gracious. All of them were. I think I think every year we had at least 5 or 6 entertainers come out to support and just say hi. It was all a community. We realized that very quickly. Everybody knew everybody and supported each other, and that was terrific.
Well, and we also did, Tammy, you remember these, big fundraisers for the rehearsal. It was the idea that really has sparked many a fundraiser since. The rehearsal could not be sold. There were very strict rules on where the revenue comes from. And yet Radio City said, you are welcome. If you make it a discounted ticket and bill it as the rehearsal, you can do this. We did this almost every year. Initially, it was for Share the Joy, and then we probably did several other things. Tammy was very involved in filling shoe boxes. And then we did the Silver Dollar City Care for Kids. But guys, on discounted tickets with as many 4,000 seats in the Grand Palace, we raised $45,000 a year for a fundraiser. That's hard to do. That's hard to do. But the Radio City, that's what these women gave of their time too, because we'd do meet and greets and dinner with the Rockettes, and they'd come and stroll through, and it was just a really fun time. Guys, I know we have some more questions for Renee, but we do want you to know that there's also cake, which, by the way, anybody who knows where a knife is.
Did Lisa say she messed up my cake? Did you hear her say she put her finger in my face? Who does that? How mean. I think I get a bigger piece of cake now.
I think I should try to show it. I'm going to try to show it, but don't trust me.
So let me ask you guys a question. So you remember when we first came, I remember my first year, I didn't know anything about Branson. And you guys had something called Baffle. And there was a big line, remember? Everybody would line up in front of the Grand Palace. Every star, the mayor, it was all decked out. And the switch. And they would literally do a countdown and throw the switch, and all the lights along 76 would just light up all at the same time. And Andy Williams was bathed in light, all of his trees, his building, everything. It was absolutely magical. We were only a small part of what magic you guys already had going on. It was pretty fantastic. We enjoyed it.
Renee, the finger went in your face.
So as you can see, sometimes we have to deal with things. I think, what are the odds? What are the mathematical odds? Honestly.
I'm moving slowly.
One of the great things that this team and also the Radio City team taught us was how to handle press, and we greatly appreciated that. For instance, they helped us understand that it never mattered what question we were asked. We always had the answer. The question didn't change the answer. So it actually worked very smoothly, like this. Hey, Pam, ask me a question. Ask me any question. At all.
I want to know back here.
How many Rockettes are in a team?
Okay, she asked me how many Rockettes are in a team. And this is what we would say. That's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. There are several girls in a team, but what's really fabulous is how amazing the entire show is, and the joy of Christmas, and that we have big things planned for the future, and we like small children, and we love dogs. And it was a great question, and thank you.
And you run for office? You're in politics?
Yes, ma'am, I'm running now, but in a different outfit. That's a big one. Yes, sir.
So you get to keep your costume, do you?
Let me tell you how fabulous this little town is that you guys have going on here. So not only did I remain, the head of wardrobe for Radio City lives in Springfield. Her name is Jan, and she's also the head wardrobe now for the Muni. And she happens to have worked closely with all of the road shows with Radio City all these years. And she has possession of many of the outfits and costumes still. So today I had a selection between my snowball, which seemed perfect for summer, and the toy soldier, where it would have been much more difficult to come down the stairs.
I know Leon Combs would like to know, why did she stay in Branson?
That's a really good question. I like puppies, and I like small children. Branson is this great little hideaway that is denim and plaid, but it's full of our industry, and that's extraordinarily rare. And at the time I performed here, I was already 32, 35, about to have my first child, and decided we would stay here for that. And I actually worked with the Hershen family in Silver Dollar City. They were nice enough to take me in, and I worked for them for some time. And it grows on you. This town, and it's not just me, this town grows on you if you spend any time. I know that there are shows. I was involved with raiding the Country Vault and raiding the Rock Vault when they were here, and many of them looked very seriously at buying condos and homes here before they left. It's gorgeous, and it's friendly, and we have space, beautiful space in the lakes, and we're the golf capital of Missouri now. Branson is a fabulous gem, and the country is starting to catch on. We're seeing a big influx. I bet you've seen it too.
Don't forget about your friends. Yeah. Tammy said, don't forget about your friends.
I love my friends. What would I be without my friends?
Here, Tam.
That's a prize.
Oh, yes. How about, there's a couple questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I brought in a pair of white gloves with red X's.
That was you? Yes, they're stunning.
20 years ago by someone who is a relative of one of your dancers. But I know nothing about the story, why they were marked with the red crosses, the red X's on the top. Can you tell us anything about that?
I think that shows you exactly how old those gloves are, because it's fabulous. They're a gift. They don't, here they are. Thank you, Miss Ann. Thank you.
They're now part of the museum here.
They don't do this anymore, but it used to be when they would retire a pair of white gloves from the wardrobe, they would mark them, hand stitch them with little red X's, so they were not to be confused or brought back in. So once they exceeded their wear, they were marked and retired.
Wow.
Which is just stunning. The fact that you still have these is amazing.
She gets the other puzzle.
I think so. I think so.
I used them to sew quilts for charity.
Oh, she uses them to sew quilts for charity. That is absolutely special, and I'm so glad you brought them. Thank you. That'll be a gift to the museum. They'll greatly appreciate that. Brilliant. That is beautiful. I think we have
one of these. If you want to figure out how to give it away, this is actually a smaller collector's book that includes, I think, some of Grand Palace, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you do it?
No. Well, I think you did.
Oh.
Good job, Lisa.
That's
Good
how
job.
close we work together. But this is memorabilia from the palace. So Renee,
I have a question.
okay.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. So only 2 numbers of the entire Radio City's Christmas Spectacular are original from 1933. Who can tell me which 2? 2 were identical to 1933.
They're the oldest ones.
I love puppies. Name one. Which one do you think?
The toy soldiers.
Toy Soldiers is one. Excellent. Can anyone beat her by naming the second one? Nancy, you got it?
Yeah.
What is it?
No, I don't have it. I
Sit
wanna
down.
say-
No, I kid. I kid. Anyone want to take a guess? Unchanged. You in the white.
I don't know though.
Try.
Does anyone else want to? I'm gonna say the Living Nativity.
I thought nativity.
It's the Toy Soldiers and the Living Nativity. Unchanged since they were staged by Vincent Minnelli, 1933. Nance, I think you get another one. Good girl.
Lisa, you get to share these.
You are a rock star for remembering that.
More questions, anyone?
You did great.
Are you ready for some cake?
Yeah.
Okay, let's give Renee a big round of applause.
You guys, she is as sweet as she seems. We are so fortunate to have this beautiful, beautiful national treasure who almost broke my collector's snow globe.
In my cake.
We thank both of you for a stellar performance. I noticed in my research that Mr. Markert, key phrase he had, he wanted military precision. And I think that's what you all had, exactly that. Anyway, please visit a while, talk to the ladies, and have some cake, and we'll look for you on the third Tuesday of next month. Thank you.